A full slate of CPL action last week, a new broadcast deal for the NSL, and not to mention lots of Canadian men's national and women's national team talk. Lots to get into this week on Footy First, so let's get right to it. That's right, folks. It's another Wednesday, which means it's another week of Footy First talk. Nick McVicker, Niko Giantsopoulos here with you. And Niko, it's been kind of a hectic week when it comes to Canadian football. We got, let's see, we have CPL action, which the weekend was kind of crazy. A little bit of chaos in the standings. We had a new broadcast deal announced for the NSL, who has decided that they're going to drop news every week on Monday and Wednesday. Which is really unfortunate for us, Monday and Thursday, which is very unfortunate for us on Wednesday, so we don't have the full week of news, but hey, whatever. Canadian men's national team played 2 games with very interesting results. Well, let's start with you, Niko. How are you doing, my man?
I'm tired. I'll be honest. Wednesdays are crazy days for me. We also just flew across the country. When you really think about it, the CPL schedule's insane.
Yeah.
You know, flying Saturday all the way to Toronto, playing a game, flying exactly the next morning, right? You fly across the country twice in like the span of 36 hours, 3 time zones we're jumping through. It put a toll on the body. I'm kind of tired.
I bet.
But fortunate enough, Action gave us 2 days off, so trying to feel a bit fresher come around Wednesday.
What a nice guy. Gives you 2
Yeah,
days off after flying. That's so nice.
after a draw too,
I know, after a draw.
really shocking. That's when you know that it's difficult. You don't win, maybe not a result you're hoping for. Gaffer still gives you 2 days off.
Not bad.
Often.
Not bad at all. You mentioned okay, so seriously, let's give people a little bit peek behind the curtain. What time did you fly into Toronto on Saturday?
We we had to meet in Vancouver at our stadium. We take a bus
Yeah.
from the stadium to the airport. We had to meet there at 4 a.m. Saturday morning.
Okay.
Fly out 7 a.m. out of YVR.
Yeah.
Get into Toronto. It's like a 5 hour flight, 3 time zones. We get there around like 2 or 3, 3:30. Get your bags. Get to the hotel around 4. Then you just have team meal, lunch, dinner, meeting, go to bed, wake up next day, breakfast, game, get home, it's late, go to bed. If you can, sleep after a game.
Yeah.
And then we're out of the hotel 9 a.m., flying out at noon.
Peace.
Get back to YVR mid afternoon.
Peace. 10 hours on or 11 hours on a plane because I think going back it's a 6 hour flight, right? Or is it the other way? It's 4 hours.
It feels like a 14-hour flight both ways.
I know
The trip from Vancouver to Toronto is brutal.
it is.
5 hours. We're in the back in economy. I'm next to the toilet. Got 2 strangers next to me, and I'm just curled up in the middle, legs cramping, hamstrings. Imagine I ran. Imagine I moved during a game. I don't know how these midfielders do these flights. My whole body would be seizing up.
Oh, they spend the entire night after before just stretching just so they don't seize up.
That's maybe that's what they tell you guys.
That's what I'm hoping because man, I don't know how they would do that because I would get sore just sitting there, and I don't even play as competitively as you do. Like I would get sore. So I don't know how the midfielders do it. You're right; it's kind of crazy, but no, I like giving the kind of the behind the scenes look at that kind of stuff because no one really knows. Like we know how long the flight is, but when you get in all the breakdown of the time, like there's no real downtime from the moment you get to the stadium in Vancouver till the moment you get back. Almost like it is just constant go go go.
Yeah, could be worse though.
It could be. You could be not playing soccer professionally. I mean, just throwing that out there, which neither we both know
Yeah.
that is the dream. So
No, the dream is a full-time podcast host. This
no,
is the
that's the
easiest job in
second
the
dream.
world.
That you got to get through the
This
first dream first to get to the second dream.
podcast host, Joe Rogan, that guy gets it. Easiest job in the world.
But we got a lot to talk about. I mentioned all the other stuff, but let's start with the big story here. And I mean, the Canadian men's national team had interesting results. Let's say over the past week. So they go and lose to the Netherlands, and then they end up drawing against the number 2 ranked team in the entire world. Like,
The world champions.
no, they didn't tie the
France.
world
Oh my
champions.
God, what am I saying? I thought France
Take a
won
deep
already.
breath, reset there. They lost to the world champions in the final, did France, but Canada picks up a huge draw against France in their 2 games. Let's before we get to the France game, because obviously that's going to be the one that we have all the heaps and praises. Let's talk about the Dutch game, because 4-0 loss looks really, really bad on paper. It does. There's no doubt about it. Anytime you lose 4-0, it looks really bad on paper. But I think there was a lot of positives to come out of, especially that first half against the Netherlands. I know a lot of changes came in, a lot of tactics were involved in the second half. It's very tough to kind of carry that over when you make that many changes. But the first half, I thought Canada was not only in the game, but it was an earned 0-0 draw at halftime. What about you, Niko?
That's the only positive to take out of the game is that we were 0-0 at the end of the first half. They made some big saves to keep it 0-0. But goals change games, and that game was a perfect example of that. Once Netherlands got the first goal in the second half, the game really opened up, and it seemed like the floodgates opened as well. So yeah, the only positive thing. Canada soccer media is so funny. After that game on Twitter, everyone's saying, oh, here are the 5 players that really stood out in today's 4-0 loss.
Yeah.
I say it's funny
It was either
because
5 or
if
3 or 4. Like, it was different numbers, but yeah, everyone put those lists out.
but trying to put a positive spin on it, this and that. If the Toronto Maple Leafs lose 4-0, not one person in hockey media is talking about, oh, look how positive it is. It's professional sports. It's all about winning. I think we're still a bit soft in Canada soccer media. When we lose 4-0, it
Yeah.
shouldn't be, oh, let's I understand, like, it's the first time playing opponents like this, but it creates a very, like, unrealistic viewpoint of the game. We're always trying to be so positive about it. It's like, just say how it is. Like, it was a
Yeah,
bad game. There were some bad performances. I don't want to see a list of top 5 most impressive players in a 4-0 loss.
fair. I get what you're saying, but what I will say is that if we're comparing this to hockey, this game is a preseason game where teams are testing stuff out and trying new lines and doing all this stuff. That is true. That would be what this is, right? The Canadian men's national team is in a pre-tournament game. It's a friendly game against the Netherlands. So yeah, I'm going to say the positives for the first half because they looked really good in the first half. I thought they played really well. Did the Netherlands have some attacking moments? Absolutely. There's no doubt about it. But so did Canada. There was good moments in that first half. So you can't just completely gloss over that. A 4-0 loss is still a bad loss. You can't come out of that thinking that a 4-0 loss is a good loss to any team. I agree with you on that. The result is the result. But if we're trying to take positives going into the Copa America for a team that has never played in a Copa, who has played in 2 World Cups combined in its history, and just got their first goal in a World Cup 2 years ago, listen, we're allowed to take positives out of it. But you also have to talk about the negatives. And I think that's where I'll agree with you that I don't think Canadian media got it right when they were talking about this match. So for me, you can talk about the positive, but you have to talk about the negative when it's a 4-0 loss. And there's going to be more negatives than positives, in my opinion. But I was starting with the positive.
Yes. Well, yeah. I'm just more talking about what I've seen.
No,
And that's the beauty
I'm
of
agreeing with you
sports.
on that.
Yeah. The beauty of sport is, like, we don't need to create narratives or
No.
headlines. Sport does it on its own. So I think the media needs to choose a better time when to talk negatively. The team lose 4-0. Talk about the negatives at that point. That's giving the readers the realistic. They need to see the negative side. It can't always be spun positively.
Yep.
So then, when positive moments do happen with the team, which they will, because they always come, it's ebb and flow, ups and downs.
Yep.
Then you could talk about it positively. But it was a bit annoying. It was just so Canada that we lose 4-0. It's like, here are the players that are really impressed.
Yep.
And I'm saying that as a player. I'm not on this national team, but whatever list of guys that I saw, on those Twitter lists, like, oh, this guy did good.
Yeah.
You ask those guys how they did, they'll be honest because they're top professionals, and they'll be like, no, shit game. Like, we lost 4-0. Like,
Yeah,
I'm not going to sit here and talk about the positive in the game. So they're men; they could handle it.
that's true.
They're grown-ups. So that's kind of a little point I brought out
Okay,
of
so
it.
why don't we get into it a little bit more because it was an interesting match. The first half, I thought the defense looked really good. Bombito and Cornelius, I think, maybe just solidified themselves as the starting center back pair for the national team, which, hey, I love it. They're both quick. They're both good with the ball at their feet. They look great. Alistair Johnston and Davies at the back on the wings. I know that's not probably where Davies is going to play, but they look good. And then we make a bunch of changes in the second half. I know Schaffelberg comes on for Liam Miller right at the halftime, and we see four more changes throughout the second half. And as those changes came in, it almost felt like they made too many changes too quickly, and the team couldn't adjust. And the guys who came in couldn't adjust to what was already happening in the game. And then Netherlands scores 3 goals in 12 minutes, right? The third goal being a big mistake by St. Clair as well, which we can get into the keeper after. But is this a fault of the manager making too many changes too quickly in that second half, or is this a fault of the players just not being ready to make those changes?
Not the managers. He has to implement his system immediately and as fast as he can because, like you
Right.
said, the Copa's
But
coming
I
up.
mean, like the
So he
substitutions, I was more talking about the subs going into the half not being prepared to go in, or is this a manager
no,
not knowing that his guys were not ready for that match? You know what I mean?
you can't blame the manager. The players lost. I think, like we were talking a few episodes back, this is the first time they're besides in the World Cup where they're going to have this test.
Yep.
And I said to Canada soccer fans, careful what we wish for. Like this could get ugly, and that's really what we saw in the first game. I think it was a little bit of nerves. The Jesse Marsh era begins. You're playing in Netherlands against such a good team away at that stadium. I could see how this game goes this way.
Mhm.
But no, I wouldn't say it's the manager's fault. The players lost the game. The Dutch was a better side, probably more prepared. They're a bit more fluid in their tactics because it's not a big change.
Yep.
But you can't blame Jesse Marsh for implementing his tactics, or even I love how he still brought subs on it and gave them a good amount of time
Yeah,
to
he gave
show
him a good run
themselves.
out in the second half.
So now he has a better idea of who he can trust and who he can rely on when he brings them to the Copa. That was their one chance. I'm really disappointed for the guys that didn't get a look, that didn't get a chance to step on the field over the 2 games.
Yeah, and it's funny because one of those guys would be Luke Figueroa. I don't think he got into that match. He's actually going to be playing with probably the U20s if he doesn't make the Copa side because they have a tournament at the same time, right? Because he's only 20. Like he could realistically go down, but he's played so well this year for club, it's hard to send him down. But my point is, him not getting in really didn't do him justice. I don't think. Um,
Probably just gave him a taste of the environment, gives
which
him
is
something to
totally
reach for,
fair.
and I wouldn't be surprised if he does go to U20s, get some games in there, and
Yeah.
he'll be itching to make the next Canada
Oh,
camp.
100%. But the match wasn't all bad. I mean, we did, as I said, we did see some good performances. Bombito and Cornelius looked really good before they got subbed off. I don't think they both did, but I know one of them did. Um, Liam Miller looked good. Schaffelberg came on. He looked really good. Kone and Eustachio both looked good in both matches, in my opinion. There was a lot to go into the France game and be like, okay, I know that Netherlands game wasn't our best. How do we respond? Well, Niko, they've responded pretty well. They end up picking up the draw against France in a game that really could have gone either way. And they go into Bordeaux, a place that I know isn't normally the French national team home, but they looked really good against the number 2 side in the world, who may not have been playing their best 11, but their not best 11 is still world class. I was really impressed with the whole squad, and I want to start with Crepeau because you're the keeper guy. I'm gonna throw this straight to you. I'm not saying St. Clair was necessarily awful in that first match, but did Max Crepeau just cement himself as the starting keeper for the national side?
When something drastic happens or we didn't see something in camp that Jesse Marsh said, I think it's a guarantee that Max will be the starter going into Copa. He was the man of the match in that game. They got a draw. Spain loses 4-0. Probably has one or two goals that he would like back. Although they both showed they can make saves,
Yep,
but Maxime is going to be, based off that performance, the more confident national team goalkeeper.
I agree. And
So for now, Max.
yeah, and I want to get into what you just said, the more confident national team goalkeeper, because you and me were kind of talking off air, and I want to get into it a little bit more because we've seen Dane St. Clair have a great season for the MLS with Minnesota. This is now his second year in a row where he started off very, very strong for Minnesota United. When he plays for the national team, and I've noticed it before, you also have noticed it, you said, he doesn't necessarily seem that same confident goalkeeper that we see for his club side. And it's weird because he's had good performances for the national side, but just doesn't have that confidence that you would want from your national number one. Am I wrong in that? That's my opinion. Am I wrong in that?
No, I mean a goalkeeper needs to be confident. The players need to feel reassured looking
Yeah.
back that this guy, has their back. As cheesy as that sounds. And I agree. I think Dane in that game again didn't look as comfortable as he does when he plays for Minnesota. And I'm saying this as the Dane St. Clair that I see playing for Minnesota every single year is first of all the first guy that you would put on the team sheet, but also
Oh, easily.
he's he's he can win them games. He's always one of their most important players at that club. I think that's his role at that club, and role does play a part.
Yeah.
So right now, his role is competing to solidify himself as the number one. He's already solidified in Minnesota. When you take the psychological aspect of goalkeeping, out of all positions, it's the most mentally draining position. I think that sometimes does weigh on a keeper, not weigh on him like, oh my god, I
Yeah.
can't handle this, but it does create sometimes that lack of comfortability, and which sometimes does come off as nervous or doesn't look as comfortable. It's confidence. It's all the mixture, the secret sauce that makes a top goalie and makes them play at the top level. And I think right now Dane is still searching to become that role on the men's national team. And I feel like the last two or three performances I've seen from him wearing a national team jersey, he hasn't looked as comfortable as Maxime has looked.
Yeah, and I would tend to agree with you. I don't know. I don't think it's necessarily on Dane, but he just hasn't found that comfort level that you mentioned. And it's a big thing. It's very hard. And when you're talking about wearing the Canada soccer crest on your jersey, like that's a big deal. Playing for your country is a big deal, and it might just take a little bit longer. I do think Dane St. Clair will be in the running for the Canadian number one in the coming years. But if we're talking right now, Crépeau's the guy, and that's easy to say.
He's no, I disagree with that. He is in the running. It's forever going to be a running. I mean, Maxime is going to have an
Right, but I'm
insane
saying right now,
Copa.
if
Don't
we're
even
having this
be shocked
conversation
if they
right now,
switch
Crépeau's the easy answer.
for one game. But Crépeau hasn't had a long enough national team, like doesn't have enough caps in him where it's like, oh, he
Right.
has a long leash. He has a
Right. I'm
very
not
short
saying he
leash,
has a
just like
long
Dane had a
leash.
short leash.
I'm not saying he has a long leash, but I'm saying right now, if we are picking the number one, it's not a coin flip like it was maybe going into these matches. Crépeau is the number one. And if he might not have a long leash, but Dane St. Clair is the number two right now.
No.
No.
I would say Maxime is going to start game one. If I'm Jesse Marsh and the media says, who's your number one? He's like, right now we don't have a number one, but Max is going to be starting the first game.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. That's fair. Hey, I get what you're saying, but I think, in my opinion, Max is number one, and Dane's number two, and not by like a huge distance, but it's enough that I'm confident that Max is going to probably be starting all the games in Copa. That's how it is.
Yeah.
And let's move forward to the back line. And I mentioned it earlier, but Bombito, Cornelius, they cemented themselves as the starting center backs for this side. I'm sorry, Kamal Miller, you have lost your spot because these two looked phenomenal in both matches when they were playing side by side.
We can get into, I mean, the next, we're kind of going to be talking about Copa selection.
Yeah.
So is there anything else you want to talk about the two games, or we can kind of, because this conversation is kind of leading to
Fair enough.
number
well,
two
I
here.
also want to talk about the U.S. and Mexico games before we move to the Copa selection. But
Go ahead.
Okay.
Because I'll rebuttal you about the the
Okay.
center back pairing, but it makes more sense to talk about
Fair
it
enough.
now.
Well, yeah. So Canada had 2 games. Well, the U.S. and Mexico have had a few games of their own, and they haven't done anything close to what Canada did against France. U.S. losing 5-1 to Colombia on home turf. A huge result for the Colombian side. And Mexico losing 4-0 to Uruguay, and then following that up with a 3-2 loss to Brazil. Do these results, more of the 5-1 and 4-0 losses for U.S. and Mexico respectively, do these results maybe kind of give perspective on the 4-0 loss to the Netherlands that Canada suffered? Or is this just all of these teams trying to find their way into the Copa and testing some things out, do you think?
I think the 4-0 loss is way worse for Mexico, especially. They're not going through the coaching change that Canada is. But again, I'm hesitant to put too much weight on any of these results because there are friendlies. It doesn't affect, correct me if I'm wrong, their national rankings, correct? Friendlies don't count for the
I think
rankings.
friendlies do count, but they're weighted way less. Like it's almost negligible, but they do count. The FIFA, to be fair, the FIFA rankings are flawed anyway. But we've had that
It's
conversation many times, and we don't need to have it again. It's not a good system. So yes, I think they do count, but it's like minuscule amount towards points. So
friendlies are the time. If I'm a national team coach, if I want to try some things out, I'm going to do it during the friendlies. So
yeah,
I'm going to just give CONCACAF a little bit of slack. But when the real deal tournaments come up and these games mean something, let's pull our socks up, CONCACAF.
yeah.
All right, the rest of the world's laughing at us.
Well,
We'll
Canada
hear from
tried.
here
Canada did try to pull their socks up and got the draw against France. So they did
for
their part
sure.
to pull their socks up.
Canada can wave that CONCACAF flag proudly after the second game.
Yeah, after the second game. We have to include the second game, but the first game, not so much.
But Europe was laughing like hyenas
Oh, yeah.
at Canada soccer 6 days ago.
Yeah, easily. And I think what these results more than anything for me mean is that A, this is friendlies. It means nothing in the end. And B, we're not in as bad a spot as everyone made it seem like we were after the Netherlands. Man, people were saying this was the worst coaching decision to bring Jesse Marsch in and that he wasn't the right tactic for this side. I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. Did you watch the first half? Like, you can't just ignore the full game just because the results end 4-0. There was good parts, like we mentioned off the top. You can't say he was the worst manager. I thought it was a joke. I'm like, let's see more than one game maybe. Let's see 3 or 4 before we try to make a decision. Or let's see, I don't know, a full year of national team games. Let's relax before we dub it the worst national team manager ever, which is not the case, by the way. I do not think Jesse Marsch will ever be considered the worst national team coach ever. But that's what was coming up on social, and I'm like, you're ridiculous. That's craziness.
Mate, the manager had nothing to do with either of those games. The good result as well, he had nothing to do with it. That's all the players. The players should get all the credit.
I agree.
All he did was write some names on paper, and they showed up to camp. And yeah, so those 2 games that we saw, very little did Jesse Marsch have to do with it.
I agree. I'm just saying, like, that's what was on social, and that I was like, you're kidding me, right? Like, there's no way we can be talking about this one match into his tenure. Like, deep breath, folks. We played a top 10 team in the world in Netherlands and lost 4-0. We're gonna be okay. Take out 15 minutes, it's probably a 2-0 game. What were you laughing at? You laugh at me.
Because you also can't say everything's going to be okay. It could be a complete shitstorm, but we just don't know. But right now, you can't make any conclusions.
You can't. That's what I mean by
You can't
everything's
you can't guarantee.
No, but that's what I
everything's gonna
meant
be
by
okay.
everything's going to be okay. Like, the world's still spinning. We have more opportunities to figure this out. It's not like this is the end-all, be-all. We need to can this guy right now. Like, we're okay. We can figure this out. And if it doesn't work, we get rid of him and find somebody else. Now, we saw the France game, and everything kind of righted the ship, and everyone's like, oh, he's going to be a great manager. Oh, okay, deep breaths, guys. Come on. Let's Let the guy have a little runway here before we try to decide whether he'll be a good manager for the side or not. Anyway, speaking of him managing the side, let's get right into it. The Copa is coming up. We are less than 2 weeks away. The first game is on the 20th. So we're 8 days from Canada's first match in the Copa. And Jesse Marsh came out and mentioned that he may be making some changes to his squad. So I'm going to read out the 26 that were brought in for this tournament, or for these friendlies. And then I want to get your opinion if you think any changes will be made, and if you do, who will be coming into the side. So I'll read it out. Theo Bair, Moises Bombito, Charles Andreas Brim, Tejan Buchanan, Matthew Choinière, Derek Cornelius, Maxime Crépeau, Jonathan David, Alfonso Davies, Luc de Figueroa, Stefan Eustachio, Kyle Hybert, Junior Hoylett, Alistair Johnston, Ishmael Kone, Kyle Laren, Richie Larea, Tom McGill, Liam Miller, Kamal Miller, Jonathan Osorio, Sam Piette, Jacob Schaffelberg, Dane St. Clair, Ike Ugbo, and Dom Zator. Okay, so there's a few names that are not on that list, obviously. We can talk about Adekugbe, who was hurt, reason that he wasn't selected, and a couple other dual nationals. Luke Koleosho has never played for Canada, but he is potentially available. Is there a name that wasn't in this camp? Oh, I also have to include Tony, Minnesota striker, who I cannot pronounce his last name for the life of me. I'm usually really good with last names. But Tony O, he was great when he came on. Just going to go with Tony O. So he was there. So 27 on the roster. One guy has to come out. And is there anyone that you would bring in / leave off this team right now? It was a long question. I'm sorry.
I did it a little differently.
Okay.
So let me throw that question. I have a list of people that, if I'm Jesse Marsh, I'm for sure bringing.
Okay. Yeah, we could go with that.
Okay. So this is my list of guys that, from what I saw those 2 games, I'm for sure bringing.
Done. Let's hear it.
Cornelius.
Yep.
Alistair Johnston.
Yep.
Alfonso Davies, Ishmael Kone, Eustachio, Jonathan David, Schaffelberg, and Buchanan, and Oso.
Okay. No
Those
Liam
are
Miller?
the only. He was on the fence for me. I'll put him in as well because he was written down. You don't have to put it right there. And then Maxime and Dane St. Clair.
Dane.
Everyone else.
Does Tom McGill automatically get the third keeper spot then for you because he was at camp?
I was talking about this with somebody. Yes, I think so. Probably because he's just going to play the third string keeper role, and that's the role that he plays at Albion, right?
Yeah.
Right. So, yeah, he's going to be my third as well.
Also, he was in camp, so if you're only going to bring a third keeper, you might as well bring the guy who's been around the side, right? Like, that makes sense.
But if I'm Jonathan Sirwa, I'll be like, dude, I'm playing week in, week out senior men's football. Like, I want to do that.
Right. I get what you're saying, but we're just out of camp. If you're never going to plan on playing your third keeper in this tournament, which, I mean, most managers are probably hoping and praying that they never have to go to their third keeper in a tournament, a short tournament at least. You're probably bringing the guy who was just in camp with the side. That was more what my statement was saying. Right?
Sure. Yeah. Everyone else, the names I didn't say, that's who, if Jesse Marsh can find someone better and who he thinks, but those are the guys that are guaranteed on my roster.
So who did you have at the back again? I just want to make sure I have the right guys.
Cornelius Johnson, if you count Buchanan. I didn't have Bombito.
You did not have Bombito. Okay, why?
I think he had a really good first game. Lose 4-0 though. Will he make it? Yes, but again, that's not my for sure. I thought Derek Cornelius was by far my best center back.
I'm not arguing that. I thought he was too, but I think Bombito was the next best center back, and that's why I think those two are starting together game 1 against Argentina. I think they looked great together.
Yeah, I think that he could play around maybe a bit more.
Fair enough.
Does Joel have a shout? I think Joel could. I feel like they could complement each other really well. Derek Cornelius, the big, strong. Joel can maybe cover him a bit more. Maybe Joel steps in there.
So let's say Bombito and Cornelius are in. You have to pick 2 more center backs. Okay, I'm going to give you a list of 5. Who would you want to bring? This is your opinion, obviously. Okay. So we had We had Kyle Hybert, who was also playing left back, but he's naturally a center back. Kamal Miller, Dom Zator. Where'd the other one go? I'm missing. Well, Joel. Okay, maybe it's only four. So I got four. You need to pick two.
I'm bringing Kamal and Zats.
Kamal and Zats. Is there a
Yeah,
reason why, or I'm just curious?
Zats is playing in Europe,
Yeah.
so his season's off. It'll be good to keep him ticking over the summer. Hybert's in the middle of MLS, so just keep him there, and I would go with Zats. I think you reward the guys that are playing in Europe, and Zats can also Hybert can also play left back. I think you keep Kamal just because he definitely has a good relationship in that locker room,
Mm-hmm.
and I think you reward Zats. I know the level Zats can get to, and I would pick Zats over Hybert.
That's fair.
You already have Cornelius and Kamal that are left-footed. Zats can kind of cover the right side just in case you want to lock things down.
Yeah.
And
No,
that's what
I
I'm
like
going
it.
with.
I think that's a fair shout, and I would probably lean towards Miller. I'd probably lean towards Miller and Joel, to be honest, in my opinion. I really like what Joel's done in Montreal. I know he hasn't had the greatest of seasons as a club, but I do think his ability to play not only the center back, but also the right back role and allow like the rotation to kind of open up so whoever's actually playing that right wing back can move up the pitch a little bit easier. So that's why I would bring him in. But yeah, Zats does the same thing. So I could see them going with Zats as well as him being in the camp this time around. It makes it a little bit easier for him to get picked.
I think that'll be the change. It's either going to be Joel for Zats coming in, and
Yeah,
then
one of the two of them.
the defenders will probably stay the same.
That's fair. What about a guy like Atakugbi? I know he's been hurt. I know he's not 100% back yet, but if he is healthy, is he on the roster for Copa? Maybe for Hybert.
Hmm, I don't think so. Not. I mean, I don't know where he's at with his injuries, but you're basically bringing a guy into camp to play games, and he hasn't been tested for match fitness up until then. It's just a bit of a risk.
Sure.
You would rather, just for the sake of that player, that he's with his club team and they can just take care of him as best as he can. Unfortunate timing, that's part of that's injuries.
No, I agree with you, and it's just been a conversation that's been had, so that's why I wanted to bring it into our conversation because I think it's important to have that. In the midfield, I think it's pretty obvious Eustachio and Kone are going to be starting, based off of their performances. Kone was, if Crépeau didn't have the man of the match performance against France, Kone was right there. I thought he was great. And Eustachio was the captain for a reason. He is the leader on this side, and he looked really good as well.
Here's a question for you. Who's your captain? Who's going to be the captain?
I have Eustachio, in my opinion. As much as I love Alfonso Davies, I think Eustachio is more of a leader, and that's why I want him wearing the band.
Because Davies wore the armband the first game.
I know. And I still think Eustachio should have been wearing the armband, to be honest, because I thought he was named captain. And then I know Jesse Marsh just came in, and he's changing things around. Don't get me wrong, but Eustachio to me is the captain of this team. He is the leader of this team, and that's why I want him wearing the armband when they face Argentina on the. Which is it's a pretty straightforward question to me. But behind those two, we already knew that the midfield was a little bit thin for this Canadian national side. You have Piet, technically Oso could play in that role as well. Not a whole lot of like central midfielders on this roster. Do you think Piet ends up coming to the Copa just for that veteran presence and guy that you could throw in there as a more of a defensive guy if you're leading in a game?
I think he might. It all depends on how Jesse Marsh weighs like leadership within the group. From all accounts, that's what I've heard. Piet is that guy in that national team.
Oh, 100%.
So we'll see.
Yeah.
Biello, I'm sure really respects him as well. So Biello can tell Jesse Marsh, his previous thoughts working with him and the role he could play. Kind of like what Doniel Henry was.
Yeah.
For that World Cup roster.
Yeah, for sure. The wingers are pretty straightforward. I mean, you got Tejan, you got Davies, you got Schaff, Liam Miller. We already mentioned he was on your bubble, but you said he was probably going to go. Also will be there, I'm fairly certain, not only for the fact that he can play wing, but can move into that central attacking role as well. So let's go to the forwards, and unless you want to talk about one of the wingers that I mentioned.
No, let's get into it. Strikers. We played 2 games. We didn't score a goal.
Yeah, lots of strikers on this roster too. So we got Bear, you got Brim, you got David, you got Laren, you got Hoylett, who's more of a winger, and he'll be there. I'm not really concerned about Hoylett. I know he'll probably make that roster. Um, you got Ugbo, you got Tony. There's a lot of strikers on this roster, and yet we came away with no goals, only like 4 shots on net for across the 2 matches, which is just it's not good enough. We got put into a couple really good spots and never ended up getting a shot out of them. So, is there anyone that you think needs to come off this roster because they just don't have it right now, or is there just need to be more quality in front of the net?
I want to see more chances given to strikers like Ugbo. I want to see Theo Bair. It was his
Yeah,
return to the national team. I think he's coming with a lot of confidence from his season in Scotland. So I want to see if that could translate on the national team stage. Unfortunately, he didn't get an opportunity to show. I wonder how he was in camp in general. But I want to see Jonathan David starting, and I want to see someone else pair with him, whether that's an Ugbo, so you can have that pace up top, or maybe even a Theo Bear. But I'm curious how Jesse Marsh is going to go with this. Is he going to ride Laren again? I think Laren should be selected, but for starting, I want to see a different duel up top
it's
between the
funny
two
to
games.
me. I almost want to see just the way that they played in this window. I would almost want David up top solo with Schaff and Miller going out on the wings and posing and opening up things because they had David kind of starting on the wing there on the right side in front of Buchanan. It was kind of like a weird sort of rotation that they had going. I would almost just let David be the solo striker with those two out on the wings and just opening things up for the midfielders and the wingbacks in Davies and Buchanan and Johnston.
Is it crazy for me to say that I don't think Schaffelberg should start? I think he did great. If anything, his stock rose the most, I
Mhm.
think, over these this camp. But I love him coming off the bench, and I think he could do more damage as a kind of like our super sub.
Yeah, I don't think that's crazy at all, by the way. I think that's a fair shout. I'm just saying, based on how they played, I would rather those two be on the pitch than Laren, right? And I'd rather David be up top by himself, just because of how they played in these 2 matches and how they seem to mesh with the side. But no, it's not. It's not a crazy thought to have Schaff being the super sub coming off the bench every game if he needs to, because he has that ability, and with his speed, he also becomes that like thunder lightning sort of thing. You wear the team down for 65 minutes, and then you throw him out there for 25 minutes just to run rickshaw over an entire side. It's not a bad option to have off the bench. I'd much rather have a
Yeah, and
guy
also
like
that.
that.
Yeah, and I want to see Kyle Laren seeing how he plays the role of coming off the bench and making a sub up top. He's very much that cork in the ocean kind of striker where he can just get his foot on it.
Yeah.
I think sometimes that suits more for the national team. Him coming off the bench, getting 25 minutes in.
Yeah, and when a team is worn down after we said about 65 minutes of running, you bring on a guy who has the ability to score goals is not the worst thing in the world because they're going to get more chances as a team is more tired. So to have that on the bench, I kind of agree with you. I don't think he should be starting for this side. So then the question becomes, if you're going to go with the 2 striker system that Marsh has implemented with David and somebody else, who's your starter?
I'd like to see Agupo get a chance.
Yeah, fair. I think
That'd
I
be my
would.
pick right now.
I think it wouldn't be a bad shout between either Ugbo or Bear, the way that they're playing right now. Theo could also be up there with David, and I think they could cause some chaos in the box.
I would have liked Russell Rhodes to get invited into this camp.
Me too.
He's
It's
just
just a
got such
tough
a knack for
position.
scoring at all the levels he's played at, but who knows? Maybe that's a surprise pick that comes into it.
Yeah, and he did mention that there could be surprise picks. And we'll see. And something that did come up a little bit, and we talked about Laren not necessarily having a guaranteed spot in the lineup. Jonathan David, people were saying that he needs to be a bit better for the national side. Is he guaranteed a spot in the national side starting 11? Should he be guaranteed a spot? I'm going to start this one, Niko. I do think he should have the starting spot right now, but he does need to give a little bit more when it comes to finishing. Like obviously Kyle Laren has the national team goal record. I'm not but he scored all these goals over such a
Played
longer
longer.
period of time. David has a good goal scoring record for Canada, but for the last 2 years, pretty much since the World Cup started, he really has sort of dried up for the national side. I think he has 1 goal in that time frame, maybe 2. You do need to see a little bit more if he's going to be your starter, but he is the starter right out of the gate right now. Like I don't think he loses his starting spot at the moment, but is it a guaranteed spot going forward? Maybe for the Copa,
Yeah,
but I need to see a little bit more.
he's very much our star talesman. So I think yes. Short answer, yes.
Fair enough. All right. Well, from the national side to National League, the NSL is, keeps announcing bigger and bigger things. First, we had the league name, and we got the logo, and we had the cap, and then the roster breakdown, and then a team brand, and then another team brand. Well, now, Monday, they announce they have a broadcast deal. And not only is it a broadcast deal for a multi-year broadcast deal, it is a multi-year broadcast deal with CBC, who will broadcast the majority of the games on TV and all on radio, as well as a few select games going to TSN and RDS, who will have select Montreal games in French. Niko, shaking your head there a little bit. How big of a deal is this for the Northern Soccer League?
This is huge. This is something that the CPL wishes they could do. And Northern Super League, boom, went out and did it.
Right off the bat.
They are doing everything that the CPL probably wishes they could or did do. They got into Quebec right away. CPL clearly is trying to do that and wishes they did that. And now they're going to be on TV. That's what we've been saying for the longest time here in the CPL. We need to be on cable television. That's how the game grows. That's how this league becomes relevant. If I'm CPL right now, I'm terrified of the Northern Super League. They're coming in hot. They're going to take over the soccer market. Something needs to be done. This is amazing for the women's game. This is amazing. That's how scared I am. That's how scared
folks.
I am. I'm developing a list. That these girls got me shaking. They're doing so good. CPL's in trouble, guys. Step up, or these girls are going to walk all over us.
Yeah. Yep. And Diana Matheson said it when she announced the broadcasting deal that these games will now be available to Canadians across the country. And what that really means is that you don't have to pay a subscription to watch these matches. These will be on cable TV. Yes, you have to pay for cable, or you have to go to your local bar because cable's in most of those bars. Let's be honest. That's just how it is. You'll be able to find these matches a lot easier.
Way more accessible.
It's way more accessible.
In 2019, CPL, some of our games were on CBC. That's the only time my buddies realized that they would just be clicking through the guide as they're just chilling on their Saturday. Canadian Premier League, what the hell? Doesn't Niko play in the Canadian Premier League? What the hell? What is that? Click it. What the hell? Niko's on TV. Niko's playing soccer. I thought he was playing in like a men's league. That's how serious it'll be. It'll just look so much more legit and immediately professional soccer. I'm still trying to convince my buddies who are all hockey players that I'm a professional soccer player. They're laughing at me. They're playing their beer league hockey games and they're thinking they're more legit of an athlete than me. These girls are going to have that kind of exposure. And with being on TV means the value of all these teams goes up. The personal brands of the players go up.
Endorsement deals automatically
go up. Everything. And with that comes more money. And the more money comes into this league, the more legit and the more it can grow, the faster. And they're going to take over. Hello, Mr. Commissioner, what are we doing about this? What are we feeling about this? Are we scared? I've talked to 5 or 6 other CPL guys that are my buddies. I haven't brought up the question. They brought it up. They're nervous. What are we going to do about it? Something needs to be done. We might need to ride the women's coattails into a broadcast deal. That might be our only way in.
Isn't that what the
Or if
national
not, this
men's
is my.
team did?
Oh, is it? Is that what they did? I don't
Well, I mean,
know.
the
I
women's
don't know what the
national
men's
team was
national
so
team
much
did.
better for the longest time. The men's team had to kind of ride their coattails into what is now the one soccer deal, which I know a lot of people don't like, but at the time it was the only thing that was around. And now we're seeing CBC and TSN now understanding the value of the sport in this country, and they're doing the right thing and getting involved with this league early, and the NSL is going to be better off for it. There's no doubt about it. The NSL will be better off for having this deal than the CPL is at the start of their league. No doubt.
So my question is now. So Sportsnet has for the
TSN.
longest time not been taking. No, I'm saying
Oh, you're
Sportsnet
saying
now.
actual sports. Okay. Sorry.
Yeah,
People keep doing
Sportsnet
that to
for.
me and saying the wrong one, so I got to confirm.
I won't get these two switched up. Sportsnet for the longest time hasn't been taking Canada soccer broadcasting because they say there's no money in it. It's
Mm-hmm.
not worth it. If now TSN and CBC has taken the Northern Super League, my first question would be to TSN is, do they see it as value? It does
Yes.
bring value. Is this not worth it? Or is it more of a charitable thing? I don't know. I'm not saying it is, but I would love to ask TSN that and get their honest answer. If they see value in it, CPL needs to blitz Sportsnet and
Or
say,
or
you're going
blitz
to lose.
TSN. Just blitz one of them. Go all in.
Nick, I'm afraid TSN's they're gonna come back at us and go like, nah, we don't really see value in like the men's game, but the women's game that's where we see the value. We saw what we did when we took the PWHL. Those numbers
Right.
took
But
off.
here's my one counter to that point. TSN bought the rights to the Copa America because they saw value in the Canadian national team being in it. Canada, they also have the rights to the World Cup and were pushing it because they saw the value of Canada being in it. Not necessarily, and yes, I mean, it's the World Cup, so they saw value in that regardless, but they saw the value of Canada men's team being in the World Cup, right? They've always held the Euros, but they're pushing the Copa more this year because Canada's in it. They see the value of it, but do they see enough value in the CPL is the question.
No, yeah, it's a good fair point. And
Well, I mean,
I
they can't
think
really.
TSN
We
will
can't
say
say that right now. We can't really say that right now because of the TV rights deal that CPL has, because they can't go anywhere else. So there's not even a question to TSN right now. Is it worth it? Because they can't even go after it.
sure, but let's just say hypothetically they are able to go after it. They might say in response, like, we're getting our men's soccer fix from the men's national team because those are the world class players. You know, CPL ain't getting the best men Canadian players. The Northern Super League probably will. Maybe not the first year. They're going to have these, franchise players that I'm sure are going to be some national team players playing for the Northern Super League.
Well, they have to have one
But
from the national team. That was one of the stipulations
sure,
that Diana was going to get.
but there's Canadian women soccer players are some of the best in the world.
Yes.
So naturally, we're going to be producing some of the best women's soccer talent in the
Yes.
world, and then they're going to be playing in the Northern Super League. TSN, we want to see the best women's player on our channel, and we want to see the best men's player. We don't want to see the part-time coaches and farmers in the CPL on our TV. But I'm saying we need a blitz. Sportsnet is like, you're going to lose it. Like, take CPL. Trust me, we're good, and maybe we can sell it to them. That's our only chance right now. Or we ride the coattails of the women again in CPL. But I'm going to say it again. Hello. What are we doing, CPL? We're going to lose this battle. If it is a battle, I don't know if it's a battle, but we need to get Diana on. I need to talk to her. I need to
Hey,
save
listen, we are
the
working on it,
CPL right
okay?
now.
Behind the scenes, we are working on it, Niko.
Diana, I'm begging you. Can you hear me? Come on the show. I need answers.
He needs
And,
answers.
and and if you give me bad news, I need to give you my job application. I need to give you my resume because I want to come work for you.
Well, man, they've been doing incredible stuff. And they have more news dropping tomorrow. They did a teaser video today on the Northern Super League Twitter account and Instagram. Like, they just got news coming out everywhere. It's amazing.
Out the wahoo.
Yeah, they're doing amazing. Like, this is a brand masterclass right now from the Northern Super League. No, just because they have not touched the pitch yet. They have not announced a single player, and yet they constantly are in the news cycle. They're doing a great job from a branding perspective. This is a branding masterclass right now. Since the league name was announced, they have been constantly in the news cycle. They are doing a great job with that.
I agree with that. The marketing of the women's national team has always been top notch.
Yes.
They've always sold themselves so well. I'm not going to say it's the greatest of all time. I mean, when CPL was starting, it was the bee's knees. It was what was hot at the moment. Tons of news coming in. Everyone was getting all horny, all excited. It looked all great. Again, let's see how it continues. But yeah, great job marketing so far. We're worried. It looks like they've learned from CPL's mistakes.
Isn't
We're the guinea
necessarily a
pigs.
bad thing, but yeah, the CPL now needs to respond. Leave it at that. Speaking of the CPL, go straight into it. It was a bit of a chaotic week here for CPL action. We had 2 wins, 2 draws. Lots going on. Cavs and Atletico picked up wins. While York, you guys, Halifax, and Pacific all shared points in their matches. Anything really stand out for you, Niko? I know obviously the York Vancouver game was a big one for you. You were back home for the second time this year. Was there anything else that kind of stood out for you from this week in the CPL?
That crazy travel,
Yeah, well, that
Pacific,
too.
flying all the way to Halifax and grinding out a 0-0 result
Yep.
while losing the goalie that started and Sean Melvin in like the 60th minute.
Yep.
Or yeah, 60th minute, and then getting a red card relatively early in the game and still hanging on to 0-0. I don't know if that was more impressive from Pacific or more to the fact of Halifax is just really struggling right now and couldn't grind out a win at home while Pacific did that full travel. That was a pretty big storyline. Again, Halifax still winless. Um, uh, the mood of that camp, I'm curious how it is. We almost need to bring someone on, a player to see what's going on, or I need to FaceTime somebody and just say,
Hey,
what's
how's
going
it
on
going?
over there? Yeah, all good. What's
How
happening?
you
Maybe get
doing,
Jordan back
buddy?
on. Yeah, maybe get Jordan back on. Ask him some hard
Yep.
hitting questions. Us, we're disappointed leaving that game. I think York put out a weaker lineup. Lanovich was away for international duty. Babuli still injured. New coach coming in, similar to the Jesse Marsh thing. He couldn't really implement his style, I think, that quick.
Yep.
It was a good opportunity for us to maybe take advantage of that. We come out with a 2-2 draw. Sure, we came back both times. We went down 1-0, tied it, went down 2-1, then tied it again. But we're ahead in the standings. We were kind of expecting from ourselves to get the win. So disappointing that result. Big result for Cavs. They
Huge
beat
result for Cavs.
Forge, which is always a monkey for them. Good performance, solid clean sheet in the back, scoring a very cavalry-esque. You can see that the movement that Tommy worked in training. Sergio attacking the front post run, overlapping by Frazier, whips in, big Tobias. That guy's in form right now.
Oh, he's playing great.
If you can find the line, Tobias, he's on pens. He's scoring an open play as well. Golden Boot winner, maybe. Him and Ruben Del Campo right now are the
Yeah.
hot ones to pick. But that's a big win for Kaz. It kind of now puts him in the mixer for being up in the table. And I was talking to my buddy the other day, and he said, we shouldn't be worried. We should be worried. Cavs shouldn't be worried because this is how they always start their season.
It's so
A
true.
slow start, a good Canadian championship start, and then they beat Fords and they go on to win the regular season. So they had a shit start, good Champions Cup, whatever it's called, Canadian Championship run, beat Forge, and now we'll see how they go from there. Sucks because we play them next. Hopefully we could reverse things. But yeah, that's what did you get from this the CPL's games this week?
Yeah, no, like you said, Halifax really struggling, can't really hold on to anything. Pacific with a gutsy draw in that one with everything that was going on. York, I was actually really impressed with York under Mora for their first match. They were missing 4 of their top 5 attacking players, end up coming out with the 2-2
Right, Ricci. Yeah, I forgot about those
Right,
two.
yeah, right. Also coming off, still sitting on injury, sitting out with Babuli. He was at the match there as well. And then Ricci being in Italy for a wedding, a family wedding that he just couldn't get out of. That's the worst way to say it, but you know what I mean. So 4 out of your top 5 attacking players. I'm throwing Max in there as well. I know he's more of a backline guy, but he is an attacking minded player. And they end up coming out with
He's
the
going to be
draw.
more of an attacking player with that new formation that they're going to be
Well,
playing
that
three
too.
center backs at
Yes.
the
Now
back.
he's going to be
Max is
super
going to be
attacking.
going up and down.
Yeah. I was very impressed with Mora's tactics, how he put that lineup out there. Cordova strike, really, really impressive. Caught Callum a little bit guessing the wrong way off of the corner. But the whole thing for me, I was impressed with Mora. And then, as you mentioned, the Cavs victory. Like, that is a big win for that side. They have not started the season off very well. They did do well in the Can Champ, picking up the win over Vancouver, but just not. They haven't really found it yet. This could be a turning point for them this season. They're sitting in 5th right now. There's still a lot to make up, but I like the way that they look, and I think that they're going to be. I think that this is a turning point for this side. That's really what I took
CPL
from this week.
took from this was that. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, all good. Go ahead.
I was just saying, CPL fans, I think, can start looking at now of potential trades that are going to be happening within the league. I'm hearing a couple things from all clubs. The teams that are maybe struggling are going to look to improve, and the teams that are doing well are going to try to solidify themselves at the top. So we already seen an interleague trade between York. They sent Clem to Halifax, and they got Geraldo, the striker from Halifax. He started for York this week.
Yes, he did.
I think we're going to see a couple more interleague transfers, and that's always exciting.
Yeah, it
See
is.
how changes
It's
or see what
definitely a
changes
different.
happen after the break.
Sorry, it's definitely a different perspective because we don't. I mean, we're so used to footy being more just direct transfers, but this league does have the ability to make those kind of trades more than anything. So it'll be interesting to see if there is any more coming up. And as you said, there's going to be a couple teams that maybe want to solidify their place, and there's some talent on some of these rosters that aren't getting the run out that they maybe deserve. So it'll be interesting. Let's head to your favorite segment of every week, Twitter Watch, Niko. And we don't have a ton to talk about this week, but one story that did come out is that João Morelli, who former Golden Boot winner for Halifax, he was given a 18-month ban by the Ethics in Sport following a doping violation. Now, what this actually means in the long run might be nothing because Morelli did retire from the CPL at the end of last season. So this could end up being a moot point, but kind of big news. This is really the first major player to be hit with a doping violation in CPL.
And this is like he was on the juice.
I didn't read into it too much, but it is an 18-month ban, so never a good thing.
Yeah. So as long as he didn't get into the D-Road desserts and he was juicing, yeah, I mean, it's an interesting play. I mean, he's probably like, okay, I just had this bad knee injury. I got one more year. I want to get back out there as soon as I can, kick the ball a couple more times. Maybe I could take this performance enhancing drug, put it in me, right out the last. I mean, he looked good when he came back. So
He did.
I thought that was just Morelli. Like, damn, this guy didn't lose a beat. But all I knew is the juice. He scored a goal for me. I want CPL records to strike that goal against my record. So when we lost 2-0 at home, or we lost 3-0 at home, strike that one down. I think it's only a 2-0. So yeah, Mr. Commissioner, I'm talking to you a lot this episode. We need that goal removed. It was unfair. I was playing against a monster.
Yeah. To clarify, I will read out what it was. He failed a urine sample collected on August 6, 2023, and revealed the presence of clomiphene metabolites, a prohibited hormone and metabolic modulator. He also failed to dispute the violation within the timeline specified by the Canadian Anti-Doping Program. So he forfeited his rights to dispute the ruling.
I don't know what any of that stuff is, but I put any. He essentially sounded like he became a robot. with the words that you just used there. So that's against the rules. So yeah,
It's not okay.
let's
Please
take
try
away.
again.
I think he had that and a low grade beaver tranquilizer.
And he shot it
No,
at you and tranked
dodge
you, or
dodgeball. That's a dodgeball
I
reference,
know
Nick.
the
Did you miss
reference. I
that?
was trying to be funny. Relax.
God damn you, Bernice. A lot of my college friends will be
All right,
laughing
and
if
with
they ever
that,
listen to that.
um, so that's all I have for you, Nico. But you said you wanted to talk about something quickly in Twitter Watch, right?
A couple weeks ago, I saw on Twitter that Lowell Wright got released from Whitecaps 2. I don't know what happened, but it seems to be it was a disciplinary reason. It wasn't a mutual reason. So he's
Well,
no
they
longer
said
with the club.
mutual in the announcement.
Did it say mutual? Okay,
We
well
all know
maybe it
what
was
that
mutual. I
actually
don't
means,
know.
though. So
I don't know. Maybe it was mutual. I don't want to be starting any rumors. Anyways, he's out of contract. If it wasn't mutual, it's a shame. What an opportunity that he had to be a part of the Whitecap system.
mhm.
So now he's going back. I don't know if he's going to get picked up for a CPL club, but if not, and if he's still young, this is a talented guy. He has talent.
Yeah,
Uh,
which is
he
shown.
needs
He's
to
he's
he
he's
needs to
scored
get.
some bangers in his career. Like it just he has the talent, but you got to put in the
Or
work.
he scored banger. This is a big lad that's got technical feet. Yeah, it reminds me of like Ibrahimovic. It's like, oh, you're so big and strong. It's like, yes, but I have technical feet. That's Lowell if you had a
Yeah,
Swedish accent. So that striker's available, but I wonder where he's going to end up. My guess, I don't know if you've checked the League One standings recently.
Simkeys.
Simcoe County Road, Simcoe County.
Oh my
Now you
god, you want
jammed
me to
me up
say it
there.
for you? I got this.
No. You. I was saying it properly and you cut me off. Simcoe County Rovers are at the bottom of the table of League One. They could use a striker, I think, score some goals, drag him out of the bottom. Maybe Lowell should step into the League One Ontario scene right now, get a bunch of games, get his confidence back, and showcase his ability to the Canada soccer market, and maybe he could get picked up. Anyway, something that I saw come across my timeline a couple weeks ago, and I thought it was an interesting point to bring up.
Yeah, and you know what? Another thing that we can add to that Simcoe County, they just made some big changes to their coaching staff and technical staff. Donnell Henry, now the technical director, I believe, for the
Sporting,
club,
sporting
which is
director.
huge. And they made 4 changes to their men's staff for League One Ontario. So, hey, they're trying to get out of that hole because now with the new League One setup, there is relegation. You could drop out of the top level. They don't want to do that. This is a team that won it all last year. They're not doing well. So, hey, maybe Wright is the answer for Simcoe's struggles to start the year.
Okay, so then here's my message to Daniil Henry, who's now the sporting director there. It's like your team's near the bottom of the table, if not the bottom of the table. All right, I'm telling you, I think he needs good guidance. I think he
Yes.
needs a bit of mentorship. This is a talented young Canadian striker. Daniil, open up your wing, bring Luell under there, and be that mentor for him. Like I know you were for the men's national team. I know how big of a role you played. Be that guy for Luell. Bring him into your club, and let's see if he can produce for you. And it could be a mutually beneficial partnership.
Yeah, I agree 100%. That is a great shout, and I think that would be a great spot for him to go. Yeah, no, I'm all for that one, Nico. Let's get to the end of the show here. What are we watching this weekend? I'm starting. I know you're already pointing at me. I got you. So my game, I'm gonna go. I wanted to make a joke and go with one of the Euro matches because that starts on Friday, and I'm actually very excited for that. I'm gonna be watching the match, the England match on Sunday with my squad after our game, which will be a lot of fun. That'll be great. But I'm gonna
Okay.
stick with Canadian soccer because that's what we're here for. I'm going with the Whitecaps at New England Revolution match. And the reason that I'm going for this is because we've talked that the Whitecaps have struggled the last few weeks since I made the declaration that I think they could go on a long run. And I apologize. Apparently, I should never have done that. It's never a good thing. But this is a great opportunity right here. They're sitting in fifth in the West still. They're still very much in the running for one of the top 4 playoff spots to get a home playoff match. They're playing the last place team in the East in the New England Revolution. They have been awful this year. 4 wins, 1 draw, 10 losses in 14 matches. This is a get-right game if I have ever seen one. Vancouver needs to come out and bully the New England Revolution at home, a place that is notoriously very, very hard to play, but not this year for some reason. They need to go into there and really try to dominate them. Get everything right. Get the boys back on the positive train, because if they're going to make that run that I've said that they were going to make, it needs to start now to get that momentum going towards a playoff push. I know we're talking way in the future because we're, as I said, 14 games in. There's still like 20 games left. But you got to start beating the teams at the bottom, and this is a great get-right game for the Whitecaps, in my opinion. What do you think about that?
Love it. Well said. They need to win.
Yep,
They're
absolutely. All right.
expecting to win.
All right, Niko, you're up. Who do you got this week?
CPL's on tour. I don't know if you've heard about it. We're going to Kelowna.
Yeah.
Vancouver FC, my squad, facing Cavalry FC. Tommy Wheeldon's bringing the horses down. And we're going to be in Kelowna. Wicked game for the league in general, trying to showcase the CPL to a new market, potential future expansion market in Kelowna.
Yes.
So that's the game I'm going to be watching this Sunday, 2 p.m. kickoff Kelowna time. So wherever the hell you're watching from, do the math, figure it out. Watch that game. They're expecting 4,000 or 5,000 people there. The city's excited for it. I'm excited for it. And I think it's just going to be a good showing of the Canadian Premier League.
Yeah, and this is the first on-tour game. This is a big deal for the league because if they can showcase new markets, how important the CPL is, we could get new markets really quickly in the CPL, which would be fantastic for the league as a whole. I'm excited to see where else they go, but we can't go anywhere else until you start with Kelowna. This is going to be a really fun match. And you know the Cavs side very well. You know that they're going to be up for something like this, so it'll be a very fun time.
I mean, it's going to be a fun weekend. We're actually heading down on Thursday, and then each day leading up to the game, we're doing community events. We're doing school visits. Then we're running like a soccer camp on the weekend on the Saturday, and then the game on the Sunday. So tons of events. I think Tourism Kelowna is also participating pretty heavily in this event. So if you're in that Kelowna area, if you can get to Kelowna for the weekend, bring the kids, bring the family. I think it's going to be a great turnout and just a great footy weekend.
You know it's a big deal when the league itself is sending out multiple reminders to media members to get their accreditation in. I've got 4 or 5 emails to see if I wanted to go. I don't have the money to get to Kelowna right now, or else I would probably be there because this is going to be a great weekend. Kelowna is beautiful. It is going to be a great opportunity to showcase the city as a whole, as well as the talent on the pitch. So great job to pick the 2 teams. Great job to put it in a great location. It's going to be a lot of fun.
They're probably sending out all those reminders to you, Nick, because these girls got them scared. DPL is scared. They need this Kelowna game to be a hit.
Well, I mean, the league needs to be the Kelowna game to be a hit because they want to expand more than anything.
Because if it's not a hit, then Diana's going to go over to Kelowna probably 2 weeks later, pitch an idea, and then a billionaire is going to buy a team there and pay the guys to pay the women triple than we're getting paid. That's just how things have been going lately for us.
So what I'm hearing here is that you're very, very concerned.
Man, I'm shaking, and I hope the CPL people in the CPL office are thinking the same, or they need to calm me down. Someone needs to text me back and say there's no need to worry. We got this fully under control. We're going to crush them or we're going to partner them. I don't know what they're going to say. But right now, until I hear something from the big man, I'm shaking.
That's fair. I get it. I understand where you're coming from.
But
I'm just making fun of you because you're my buddy.
I ain't loyal to the soil. I will jump ship. And if Diana will take me, I'm diving. I'm going to put my life vest on and I'm swimming over to the Northern Super League, and I'm on my hands and knees begging. I'll clean the toilets of these clubs just to be a part of this league because it's going to the moon, Nick.
It looks
and I
like
want to
it
be
is.
a part of it.
It looks like it is. And I'm excited to see what the announcement is tomorrow from the Northern Super League. Because as I said, there is an announcement, coming tomorrow. Kind of sad that we're doing the show tonight because we could have had that included in our show too, but we'll have content for next week, I guess. So make sure you follow us on social media as we try to keep you up to date on everything the Northern Super League is doing, as well as that other league that what is it, the CPL and the MLS.
It's the farm system to the Northern Super League. That's what the CPL is going to be if they don't step up.
We will do our best to keep you up to date throughout the week on everything that's going on in the Canadian soccer world. So make sure you follow us at Footy First on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube. I think the button's down on that side. Make sure you subscribe. And for those of you listening, make sure you keep listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever you get your favorite podcast. Niko, you have a thought before we head out?
Go to the Footy First social media page on Instagram. Check our story. I put a poll out while you were just talking there. And the poll is, should CPL be worried about the Northern Super League? Put your opinions in there. Let me see your responses. Right now, I got 2 people saying yes, full stop, period. So they're also saying those are 2 males.
And
another guy
in the league
says,
by the sounds of it.
jumping_TFC_fan says no, it should feed off of it. I like that idea, partnering up, collabing, but let's get your opinions on that. Let me know. I'm going to put my opinion in there and put a resounding yes, full stop, period.
And you know what? That's a conversation we can have next week is what are the options for the CPL now that the Northern Super League is so big? We'll hold that thought. Make sure you tune in next week, Wednesday at 7 p.m. We may or may not have a special guest. Throwing that out there right now. But we will bring you all the top content then. Until then, Niko, it's always great talking to you, man. And we will see you guys next time.